Hey everybody, how's it going? Bear here. Today we're going to be talking about Birdie in the Is This Astromon Good series. And reason for that is Birdie is this month's current rebirth mon for the 3-star rebirth. And yeah, we're going to do this. Yeah. Personally, just going into this festival, I already did my 30 rebirths and got everything I needed. All I needed this month around, or this time around, was Dark Kokomaru, which is another mon that is in here. We have Fire, Water, Light, Dark Birdie, Light, Dark Kokomaru. Wood Birdie isn't in here because Wood Birdie is a 2-star mon, and of course they're not going to make you sacrifice 5 3-stars to get a single 2-star. At least I'd hope that they would never do that. But yeah, all I needed this time around was the Dark Kokomaru. I did my 30 rebirths and luckily got it on the egg. So I'm done for the month. If you're going to be doing this, with every single month of rebirth, if you don't have a mon, I always suggest try to get that mon, at least Evo 3. Even if you're not going to use it, just get it so you can fill out the guide, keep it, and find out if you're going to use it later. But anyway, we'll speak on Kokomaru in another video, which will be the one after this one. For this one, we're going to be speaking about Birdie, of course, as says the title and whatnot, and we will be starting off with Fire, as we always do. So here we are, Evo 1. It's very cute. I actually really like the design for Birdie. And it's interesting, because Wood Birdie is something that you can catch, like, in the tutorial of the game, but is not an actual catchable mon. It's not in any of the continents or whatever, which is very weird. I don't know why they'd do that, but oh well, there's that. Then here's the Evo 2, which is whatever. I'm not really a big fan of the Evo 2 design, but here we have the Evo 3, and I actually think it's pretty cool. Here's the variant, which I do like the variant for Birdie, for Fire Birdie, more than the regular. The regular is kind of weird. I think it's the oranges, I guess. Like the oranges and yellows thingies at the headpiece. I don't know. And another interesting thing about Birdie is that Fire, Water, Wood, maybe Light and Dark as well, but I'm not sure off the top of my head. They all have different, like, headpiece designs, which is very, very cool. We'll see more of that as we go through the video, of course. But anyway, looking at the stats for Fire, we have a Defender, and has an okay HP and defense. 4 nat 3 defender, stats are pretty good. Nothing special, but nothing terrible either. And then its attack is low in like the grand scheme of the game, but 4 nat 3 defender, it's pretty middle of the road, I guess. So can't really ask for much more than that. Now looking at the skills, so first off we have the leader skill, which is Grace of Life, HP up 30 to 35%, though it is dungeon specific, so not going to work out too well for Fire, won't work out well for Water either, but we'll speak on the other elements as we go. Looking at the 3-star, we have Taunt, 80% 1 turn, skill books make it 100% and give a 10% damage boost. Then on 3-star we have Sap, 60% 1 type, 2 turns, skill books make it 80% and give a 10% damage boost there. Now, where you want to use it, really the only place that Fire Birdie has any sort of use is PvP. Taunt is pretty much useless anywhere else, because you'd much rather have either Fearless Taunt or a CC that just completely prevents your opponent from moving at all. Taunt is okay in PvP though, though again, it's not as good as the ones that I just mentioned, but it is a lot more usable in PvP than any other content in the game. But also worth noting, Sap is not very useful there. It does lower the resist of the mons that it lands on a little bit, which I don't believe that the amount was ever specified or like revealed. And also it'll do, I think they just boosted it up to 7% of the opponent's health per Sap. But still, in PvP, you're going to be facing mons with high resist anyway, so the chances of your saps landing in the first place are pretty damn low, so it's not very helpful. You'd much rather have resist down if you were to be trying to lower your opponent's resist. But You know, you can just slap this thing on a defense team early game. Just put it there, let it sit there, take some hits, and do its thing. It'll definitely fall off very quickly, though. There are much better mons to put on your defense team, especially for the fire element. Even among Nat 3s, we have Fire Bulby, for example, Fire Ramu, another good example. So yeah, if you do want to use it, put it on your PvP defense team, build it HP defense, or HP defense, let it sit there, but just know there are a lot better options out there. Now let's move on to water. Scroll down real quick. I might have passed it already. I'm not sure. No, I didn't. There we are. So here we are with water. As you can see, it's got like a little bulb now instead of like the V-shaped headpiece, and it has like these two little eyebrow flap thingies, which are also very cool. But anyway, here's the variant. You can see the eyebrow thingy is a lot better. And the bulb is actually like a, what is it called? Is that like a pompadour? Is that what that's called? I don't know. I don't know the names of various, like, I'm not like knowledgeable on hairstyles. So I think it's a pompadour though. And I'm actually not sure which one I like more. I guess I like the regular more because I like this blue better than the other blue. But anyway, let's look at the stats. So it is a balanced type, and it's not really, like, its stats aren't really spread out like a balanced type. It's more like a weakish tank in terms of its stats, because its HP is much higher than Nat 3 balanced types are, and its attack and defense are a little bit lower. Normally, we see them at about like 2k for the attack and defense, you know, maybe a little bit higher, and the HP would be about like 24k or something like that. But of course, this is more tanky, which is fine. It's not bad at all, because what you want to do with Water Bulby leans more towards being a tanky mon than it does towards like doing any sort of offensive anything. Because looking at the skills, on 3-star we have Stun, 80% one turn, skill books make it 90%, give it 20% damage boost. Then on 5-star we have Thirst, 60% chance to lower by 30% for 2 turns. Skill books make that 80% and give a 10% damage boost there. And I just mentioned Fire Bulby when speaking about Fire Birdie, and an interesting thing is Fire Bulby and Water Birdie have the same skills. I believe the rates might be a little bit different, but like they're relatively the same mon. I don't know about the stats off the top of my head though. Which, that being said, means that Water Bulby is a PvP mon, and of course a better choice than Fire Birdie, just because the skills are better and work well a lot more than Taunt and Sap do. As I forgot to mention when speaking about Fire Birdie, is that Sap and Taunt don't really go together, but in this case, Stun and Thirst do go together. So what you want to do with your Water Birdie, now I keep saying Bulby instead of Birdie, I'm going to keep mixing it up. Anyway, what you want to do with it, put it on your PvP defense team, let it sit there, it'll spread its stun, which 90% one turn is really good for a Nat 3, and then also whenever it gets its AoE, that Thirst is pretty nice, 80% chance, and lowering it by 30% is also very nice for a Nat 3. We don't see a lot of Nat 3s with a Thirst that strong. Of course, SP Siphon is a better skill than Thirst, but we don't have AoE SP Siphons, so yeah, definitely pretty decent, actually, overall. And I should also mention the Nat 1 to 3 League. I didn't mention it with Fire because it doesn't really matter in Fire's case, because it will definitely fall off very quickly, even with the stat boost. Whereas with Water, its skills are good enough to hold up, I think. Now, I don't know the percentage of increase that they are going to give to the HP and defense stats in the 1 to 3 League now, after they changed it from the first time it came around. Before, it was 120% increase for Nat 3s, but they lowered that, and then they increased the attack one, which I don't know how to calculate the attack or defense increase. I could calculate the HP increase next time the season comes around. I forgot to do it with this past one that just came. But maybe I'll do that in the future. But anyway, point is, Birdie is going to be getting a decent stat boost from that. So not only will it be more tanky, it'll also be able to do a bit more damage as well. And I would just slap it on my defense team, build it HP, defense. I think would be better just because its HP is relatively decent, whereas its defense is quite low, so it does need more investment there. And then, before we move on, another thing worth mentioning for Water Birdie is that it can be used in Tower of Chaos on floors like 80 and 100 specifically, just for that stun, if you don't have any better stunners, because 90% one turn is really nice. Of course, it's no 100, it's no Fire Arthur skill or whatever, but it is still very good, and it's relatively easily obtainable, just because it's a 3-star mon that can be summoned from eggs. Relatively common, But anyway, let's move on to wood. And I'm going to have to do a lot more scrolling this time around just because it's 2-star. And it's right here. Alright. Now you can see that just looking at the design, it has the same headpiece as fire, which is weird. So water so far is the only one that's different. I believe light has the same headpiece as well, and then dark has a different one. Or it's the other way around. But we'll get to them soon. Here's the variant. I like the variant because there's a lot more contrast with its colors, which is very cool. But then I also like the regular because it reminds me of Spearow from Pokemon, so that's also very cool. Anyway, I can't decide. I like them both. Looking at the stats, though, we have a tank, and its HP is really good for Nat 2 tank. Though its defense is abysmal. It is so sad how low its defense is. Its attack is actually pretty okay. As we saw, it's pretty much the same attack stat as Fire Birdie had, and Fire Birdie, of course, was a Nat 3. So, relatively decent. But that defense is really going to hurt it a lot. Looking at the skills, though, we have Sap on 3-star, 100% one type, one turn. Skill books make it 2 turns to give a 20% damage boost. Then on 5-star, we have Stun, 60% one turn. Skill books make it 80%, give a 10% damage boost. So, really the only place that Wood Birdie has any sort of chance of being viable in is Water Colossus, just because it has a 100% sap. And of course, sap is one of the methods to take out the Water Colossus. It is not one that I had success with personally, but I know there are people that have. So yeah, this is definitely an option there. But of course, you'd have to play it on manual. You can't auto it, because if it ever gets it 5-star, stun is pretty much useless there. So you're just going to want to use the sap every time, which 100% 2 turns is nice, though I should always mention one type of sap is never very good just because it makes it harder to stack, which sap gets its strength from being able to stack. So that does hold it back a lot, which also holds back fire, which I forgot to mention. But yeah, there are much better sappers out there that you'd much rather go with over Wood Birdie, though it is worth noting that Wood Birdie, you are given one in the beginning of the game during the tutorial. It is a 2-star mon, so evolving it is very cost efficient, and skill books are very low for it as well, so it is definitely maybe worth, definitely maybe kind of a redundant statement. It is maybe worth trying out in Water Colossus, and it's also worth noting that its HP lead does apply to Colossus, but it's also, again, worth stating that HP up doesn't really matter too much in the Water Colossus, just because the Water Colossus does focus on sap, and the sap doesn't matter about the total number of your HP because it goes off a percentage of your HP. So that's another thing to keep in mind. How I would build Wood Birdie, though, holy shit. How I would build Wood Birdie, though, is I would go HP defense. You'd really, really need to focus on building up that defense. And actually, its defense is so low, it might actually break the point where using a flat gem might be better. I'm going to pause and make a quick calculation. Okay, so a flat gem, of course, gives 715 points at 6-star plus 15, whereas a percent gem will give it 848. So a percent gem still is the better way to go, but not by much. Yeah, its stats are really, really low. So yeah, I would still go HP, defense, maybe even triple defense, and just like use its leader skill and like some HP subs. But of course, you're gonna want like super, super high resist. But anyway, there are better sappers that you would rather use for Water Colossus anyway. Water Sea Star is a really good example. So, is it worth it? Not really, but like, if you really want to use Wood Birdie, that's what you can do. But anyway, let's move on to Light. And Light, of course, and Dark are both 4 stars. And here we are. Ah, see, yes, so Light does have a different headpiece. It, like, curls like a cartoon villain, you know? Like a cartoon villain's mustache. Or Sanji's eyebrows, just like pointing outwards rather than inward. Here's the variant. I like the colors of the variant. It's very nice. It doesn't really look like a Light Mon anymore, but it still looks very cool. I don't know. I'm going to go with the Light because it's unique. Looking at the stats, it is a attacker. Has a good attack stat for a Nat 4 in general. Has a pretty good HP stat as well. Its defense is okay. It's not bad. It'd be nice if it was a little bit higher, but no complaints overall. Looking at the skills, we have Morale Boost, 20% to its own SP, and then on 5-star we have Predator, 30%. Forgot to mention skill books. Skill books make Morale Boost 25%, give a 20% damage boost, and then they give a 30% damage boost on the 5-star. It would have been really nice if they made the Morale Boost at least like 30%, personally, just saying. But anyway, there's quite a few places where you'd want to use Light Birdie. So first off, you can use it as in PvP offense for as a light attacker. It will definitely fall off though. Light Birdie isn't like a top tier PvP mon, though it is decent for like early mid game, just to fill up a slot of a light attacker. Then you can of course use it for farming. Its kit is pretty much designed for farming. Even without a siphon set, it will be filling its SP every turn. And then, of course, it'll have the big damage AoE with its Predator. And then, of course, the Siphon set would just make that a lot more reliable. And specifically, you can use it in GB10, though I would definitely, and DB7, though I would recommend using a full light team for that, because, of course, if it is the only light mon in those dungeons, it will be targeted, and it'll be destroyed in the first turn. So you definitely need it in a full light team, and you might even want to have trinkets or like defensive subs there, but we'll get more into that after. Then you can use it in Titans just as a light attacker for really early game, but of course it will fall off as you start to get unflinching strike and courageous strike mons, even as you start getting mons with the damage boost and skill on their 3-star, just because 3-stars are more commonly used in Titans. And then the last place is Dark Colossus just as a light attacker again, but not very reliable there because the Dark Colossus does focus on draining your SP, and Birdie gets most of its damage from its 5-star, which it most likely won't be able to use in that dungeon, which is worth noting, but you can definitely try it out. And how I would build it, completely offensively, it is not crit required, of course, so you don't need a square slot, but of course, crit rate, attack, crit rate, attack, crit damage are definitely very effective means of gemming your mons for offensive damage, dealing stuff, you know. But you can also go like triple attack or something if you don't have a square or whatever. But if at that point, I would just summon a bit more to see if I can get one with a square. And then, of course, if you're going to be using it in something like GB10, you might want to have trinkets just to keep it a little bit alive, keep it alive longer, you know, because it is very frail. in terms of that dungeon specifically. As a mon, it's not very frail. But anyway, that is it for light. Now let's move on to dark, which is definitely, hands down, the best of the birdies. And oh, okay, so it has the same headpiece as light. So fire and wood have the same headpiece, light and dark have the same headpiece, and then water has a unique one. It's weird. Why not just give them all unique ones? That'd be very cool. But anyway, here's the regular, and here's the variant. I like the variant more. I love the purple. You guys know I love the color purple. Looking at the stats, it is a tank. Its defense is low. Its attack is whatever. Doesn't really matter what its attack stat is, because we'll get into that when we talk about the skills. But its HP is actually really, really, really high for a Nat 4 in general. This, I believe its HP was on par with Light Odin, if I remember correctly. Yeah, it has a higher HP stat than a Nat 5 in Light Odin. So its HP stat is very, very good. Which is really good for it because its skills, of course, are based on its HP, which we will look at here. So on 3-star, we have HP Aggression, gets a 20% damage boost from books, and then on 5-star, we have Adrenaline, heals the team for 10% of its own HP, gets a 20% damage boost from skill books there. So this is pretty much a dark version of Light Odin, just with a much lower defense stat, and a less viable leader skill. But that's pretty much the only difference. Oh, and it has lower crit rate, but higher crit damage. So, where you want to use it, you can use it in quite a few places. So first off, PvP is where it really shines, but we'll speak on PvP last, because I feel like there's a lot more to say there. You can use it in DB10, just as a dark tank and a dark damage dealer. Its HP Aggression will be really good against the Light Persephone and against the Dragon. And then, of course, if you manage to get its bar full for the second wave, you can just heal your team if your team's HP got a little bit low, which is very nice. Then you can use it in Light Colossus, just as a dark damage dealer with its 3-star. Of course, there would be better options, that preferably mons that have something like Hunter or Predator on their 3-star, like Dark Snow White or Dark Mowgli. But Dark Birdie is definitely a decent option for that as well. And I should also note that for DB10 and Light Colossus, its HP lead is viable, and of course is very good for it, since its stats, its skills are based on its HP stat. So very nice. Then, lastly, you can use it in Titans as a dark damage dealer, but of course it will fall off very quickly as you start to get Unflinching Strike and Courageous Strike mons. But it's also worth noting that it will be a sort of backup healer, being able to heal the team for 10% of its own HP whenever it gets its bar full, which 10% of its own HP healing to itself isn't a lot, of course, but considering how high its HP stat, can be pretty nice to have with your attackers. But again, will definitely fall off. It is not a reliable healer, and it is not a reliable damage dealer in Titans in general. Just use it for early game until you get better mons for it. But anyway, back to PvP. So, for PvP, you can do quite a bit with it. So, first off, you can use it in offense. We've seen how well HP aggressors do on offense, with mons like Dark Miho, Light Odin. Can't remember any viable HP aggressors off the top of my head. Dark Zubaji is another one. And of course, we see the same with defense aggressors like Light Odin, and Light Victoria, and Light Seastar. So yeah, just being able to sit there, tank, and then also deal damage is very nice. And then having that extra utility of being able to heal the team for a nice amount with its 5-star. Though keep in mind, if you're going to be using Dark Birdie, it's probably better to have it with a team that has lower HP but high defense. So if you have Birdie paired with mons like Light Odin, Light Shiva, things like that, the 10% of its own HP that it's going to heal to them isn't really going to be much, because their HP stats are really high as well. Whereas if you have it paired with mons like Dark Seastar or Light Victoria, who have lower HP stats but really high defense, the 10% of Birdie's HP is going to be a huge portion of their HP. So they're going to get healed a lot, which is just something worth mentioning there. And yeah, another thing about it, is a downside. HP aggressors in general, are very, very good in PvP, but they are very hard to gem for. So keep in mind, if you're going to get Birdie to do well, to do the best that it can, it's going to take a lot of effort to do so, because you do need a lot of resist. Otherwise, they'll just be stun locked, because it is a Dark Mon, has 0 base resist. So you're going to need a lot of resist substats and a high resist trinket. Then, also, you're going to need a lot of crit rate, because otherwise it's not going to be doing much damage. You won't be able to capitalize on its base 100 crit damage. So you're going to need a lot of crit rate, substats, of course, and then there's no crit rate on trinkets, so tough luck there. How you should gem it. The best method, or the best way to gem your HP aggressors in general, is triple HP, and then have high resist and crit rate subs on each of the gems. Of course, that is easier said than done. So early game, mid game even, it is okay to go crit rate HP. But of course, just know that will fall off in terms of usability. And ideally, you do want it on a ruin set, maybe even an armor set for Birdie specifically, just because its defense is quite low. So the extra 10%, I believe it's 10% that you get from the armor set. I could be wrong though. It's at least 10%. So that extra little boost to its defense would be very helpful. Yeah. Oh, and another thing, you're also going to need defense subs for your gems as well, just because, you know, its defense is really low, and then of course Fire Drak is a thing, so, and Dark Gilgamesh is a thing now as well, so definitely going to need some defense subs and good defense trinkets. So yeah, overall, Dark Birdie is a very good mon that just requires a lot of work. But if you get that work done, it'll be amazing for you. So it is definitely worth the investment. Personally, I don't use many aggressors. That's just a me thing. So I don't have a Dark Birdie built. I did use it though in the past. I just don't anymore, just because it's not my preferred playstyle. But that's just because I usually go against the meta, whereas the meta will tell you Dark Birdie is very good. It's not like high top tier in terms of PvP, but it is very good. So yeah, I definitely recommend getting that Dark Birdie and putting the work in with it, because it'll be very, very helpful for you, even for farming certain stages. I didn't mention it, but it can also help you with things like GB10, just being able to deal damage and heal the team. You know, can't believe I forgot that. But yeah, it'd be good in GB10 as well, just being able to have a good HP lead for you there, being able to deal damage with its 3-star, and then being able to heal your team very well with its 5-star. So overall, overall it is a great mon. And yeah. So if I'm going to prioritize the birdies, Dark is definitely number 1. Light, definitely number 2, because it is a very good farming mon. There are, of course, much better options. Like Jack, for example, is a better option than it. Let's see, other light mons that are very good for farming off the top of my head. I believe Light Ramu is also a good farming mon, if I remember right. But yeah, there's better options. That's the only thing that holds it back. Then Water is next, because its skills do go well together, and it can do pretty decently in PvP, specifically in the 1-3 league. Next, I would put Fire, because while its skills don't go well together, its taunt is a very high rate, so it can do okay-ish in PvP during the 1-3 league. And then last, I will put Wood, just because its stats are pretty terrible, and it's only really usable in Water Colossus, and even there, it does not do well, because you cannot stack its saps. And of course, there are much better sappers out there. But yeah, that's going to be it for this one, guys. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, all of that, so you stay, and hit the bell, so you stay updated for all my future videos. You know, I do tend to upload very sporadically. Sorry about that. But anyway, if you guys enjoyed all that, do all those things that I mentioned. If you have any questions or anything you want to add that I might have missed, feel free to always let me know in the comments. But yeah, that's going to be it for this one, guys. Have yourself a good day, and I'll see you guys all in the next one.